Hello, and welcome back to the continuing series on how to raise anti-racist children. This is all about the literature that we fill our homes with, the stories that we're telling our kids. I've got a few books here from my family's library. I'll keep sharing suggestions over the next few weeks of different books at different ages. There's some great graphic novels that we can get to later. For today, I'm starting with picture books for the little kids. Two things to keep in mind as we are seeking to build libraries that can help raise anti-racist children. Number one, make sure the books that you are buying and reading are written and illustrated by Black authors. It's important to let people tell their own stories. There is a continuing kind of violence that can be done to people when they are represented consistently by someone who is not them. The other thing to keep in mind is that there are stories about Black people that are not just Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. And I know that goes without saying for a lot of folks, but it's important to remember that the Black experience is broad and it's not one experience, and it takes place over different continents and islands. And so to not just limit ourselves to stories about the civil rights movement. I heard an interesting story from a white woman the other day who said that she grew up in a household that was an all-white household in a white town, and there were no books and there were no toys that represent anything other than whiteness in her life. And the first encounter she had with Blackness was being taught about slavery in school, which set her up with a really interesting paradigm right off the jump. And I think that's what we want to diffuse. We want to fill our children's lives with different expressions of Blackness and different appreciation, whether it's music or television or feature films or books. So here are three books that are great for little kids that are not about Dr. King or Rosa Parks, that are written and illustrated by Black artists. So this is an amazing one. It's called Max and the Tag-Along Moon. I've got like a reflection there. It's beautiful. It's by Floyd Cooper. It's about a grandfather, a grandson, and the moon above them both. This is a beautiful book to read to your little ones before bed. The illustrations are incredible. There's not a ton of words, so it's also great for early readers. There's just so much love and beauty in this book. There's grandpa and grandson and the tag-along moon. And Floyd Cooper, the author and illustrator, was recognized with a Coretta Scott King Award. This is an extraordinary book. Number two, George Crum and the Saratoga Chip by Leah Taylor. This is a pretty amazing book, partly because it's a history that a lot of people may not know about the man who invented the potato chip. This is a big thank you to him. This should be at least one of my personal heroes, considering the number of potato chips that I consume. This one, again, amazing illustrations. There's a little bit more text, so if you've got somebody who's working on reading more and bigger words, you can go through this together. This could be for a slightly older kid, or you can have one of your older kids read it to a younger kid, that kind of a thing. Here's the one that I'm going to read today. It's called This is the Rope by Jacqueline Woodson, illustrated by James Ransom. This is a book about the Great Migration, and I thought it was appropriate because today is Juneteenth. So I'm going to read the dedication so that for some context, in case this is new for some folks. This is Jacqueline Woodson's dedication. This book is dedicated to the more than 6 million African Americans who left the unjust conditions of the South for a better life in the North in the early 1900s until the 1970s. My mother and grandmother were among them. I thank you all for your courage and for making a way out of no way. So here, I'm going to try and hold this up so that this works, so that everybody can see everything here. You don't need to see me, you need to see the book. All right, we'll give that a shot. This is going to be an imperfect system, so bear with me here. This is the rope my grandmother found beneath an old tree a long time ago back home in South Carolina. This is the rope my grandmother skipped under the shade of a sweet-smelling pine. This is the rope my grandfather used to tie the few things they owned to the top of the car that drove my grandmother, who was a mother now, from South Carolina all the way to a place called New York City. Can do better here on this framing. There we are. This is the rope my grandmother held tight to as my grandfather drove real slow, past the people and big city buildings that seemed to go on and on. There's better lighting here somewhere. There we are. This is the rope my grandmother used to dry the sweet-smelling flowers she grew in small window boxes, reminding her of the flowers back home, where the land, she said, went on and on. This is the rope my grandfather strung so that my mama's diapers could blow dry in the hot city breeze. And this is the rope my mama tied around a small ducky's neck and then pulled it along, singing whack, whack, whack. This is the rope my mama held out to the girls on the block, her new Brooklyn block, a home of their own that they finally owned. Mama asked shyly, "Anybody want to play?" This is the rope my mama first tripped on as she sang with her friends, "Miss Lucy had a baby. She named him Tiny Tim." This is the rope Mama's brothers took from her room for some crazy game that little boys play. This is the rope my mama found again, 10 years later, when my grandfather said, "We need a bit of rope to tie these things down inside this here car, like that rope we used to have from back home." Then he drove with my mama off to a college far away from the city, while up at the window, my grandmother waved. This is the rope my mama placed on the piano around the family photos, and me, just a baby, and then a bit bigger, already reaching for it. This is the rope my daddy used when he showed me the way to tie a sailor's knot, 2 times around and pull it real tight. You want whatever you make or do in your life, my daddy said, to last. This is the rope Mama turned as she waved to my daddy and taught me to sing the Miss Lucy song out on our sidewalk, right here in Brooklyn, just last Friday night. A little closer on that one. And this is the rope that held up a sign saying, "We are all family," at our picnic reunion in the big park up the street from our home. This is the rope, threadbare and graying, that I traded with Grandma for a brand new one. And then I jumped a new jump. "Be my name is Beatrice. I come from Brooklyn," as my family smiled proudly, and the sun began setting as Grandma held on to her rope from back home. And her long ago memory of sweet-smelling pine. There you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Good luck with your own libraries. Good luck with raising anti-racist children. And to everybody celebrating today, happy Juneteenth.